Welcome back. President Biden's new top-line budget designates $715 billion for the Defense Department. That new proposal would cut out Overseas Contingency Operations spending. Todd Harrison's director of the Aerospace Security Project, the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Todd, welcome. Thanks for coming on. This is a big deal to get rid of the OCO budget that some people have been proposing for as long as there's been an OCO budget. What's your takeaway from the way that this budget proposal moves the money?
Yeah, this would be a big shift when it comes to how the defense budget is structured, but it's probably not the big change that a lot of people were expecting. So they are eliminating the portion of the budget that they designate as being overseas contingency operations funding, right? And that has been, for several years now, around $68–69 billion a year. But the money does not get eliminated. It just gets relabeled and put into the base defense budget. So it does not actually decrease the total amount of defense spending. It just relabels it.
What's the potential ramification, not necessarily this year, but in out years, given that we learned today President Biden's proposing eliminating one of the overseas contingency operations? If the operation doesn't continue, does the money need to continue?
Yeah, well, then you have to look in the details of what had been in the OCO budget. And of that $68–69 billion, only about $15–20 billion of it was the incremental cost of ongoing operations in Afghanistan and support for the Afghan government and the Afghan military. So some of that money, if we do indeed actually remove all of our forces from Afghanistan, some of that $15–20 billion will likely go away. Those are costs that we will not need to incur in the future. Some of it will probably remain, though, as long as we, try to continue to support the Afghan government and building and training their military so that they can, effectively counter Taliban and other terrorist organizations that might try to take root in that country. So, the potential savings from completely removing all U.S. troops in Afghanistan, we're probably looking at something on the order of $5–10 billion a year in the future of cost avoidance.
What else did you find noteworthy in the budget proposal?
The most noteworthy thing is that there aren't details. And, that's what we're expecting. That's the nature of a skinny budget, is it just gives you the top line number. So the total top line number for the Department of Defense, $715 billion. That compares to the current level of funding for DoD. The total number is $704 billion for the current fiscal year. It's a slight increase, but it's not an increase that really keeps pace with inflation. And so, that is the starting point now for negotiations with Congress. And it's worth emphasizing that this is just going to be a request. It's ultimately up to Congress what they appropriate. And what we're really looking for is the detailed budget request that's not expected to come out until sometime next month.
And speaking of those negotiations with Congress, a lot of reports yesterday about the remarks of the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith. He's an authorizer, not an appropriator, but he's really staking out territory that he wants to see a lot different results, a lot different approach from the department about how they spend. How potentially could that manifest itself in appropriations and not just in authorizations?
Yeah, well, I think, you raised the big point is that he's on an authorizing committee. So what that indicates is that at least the House Armed Services Committee is going to, be doing a lot more intensive oversight. They will probably be, requiring or requesting much more information from the department about how they build their budget, how the funding is being used. They'll be looking for more efficiency initiatives. And I think some of the major weapons programs are going to come under increased scrutiny in the House Armed Services Committee. Ultimately, though, it is not clear how that's going to translate into changes in appropriations because, we see this year to year. A lot of times there are distinct differences between what the authorizers want to see in the budget and what the appropriators actually put in the budget. And at the end of the day, it's the appropriations that count when it comes to the defense budget.
All right, about a minute left. What will you watch moving forward, Todd, when we get either more details on this budget request from the president or from the authorizing and appropriating committees in Congress?
The big thing I'm looking forward to next is when the full budget request comes out. The timing of that is still a little bit unclear. I'll tell you that if they push it much later into May, then we're looking at the latest any defense budget request, any government budget request from an administration will have ever come out. And so in the history of our country, this will, could potentially be the latest request ever. But in that's where we will see the detailed breakdown of where they're putting the money. And I'll be in particular looking for the division of money, the allocation of money among the military services, and then within that be looking at, how are each of the services spending the money? Are they trying to reduce force structure? Are they trying to maintain or increase investments in modernization programs? And what is the balance that they try to strike in this budget request?
Todd Harrison, thanks very much as always.
Thank you.